Welcome to this episode of the $1 Million Mastermind. I'm Larry Weidel, and before we get started, if you want to know exactly how to win again and again, go to weidelonwinning.com/webinar now to watch something I've put together for you. Now let's get going into this episode of $1 Million Mastermind. I am here with founder and CEO of Botkeeper, and that is Enrico Palmerino. How did you make that big of a mistake at that early in your career? Do you ever ask yourself that question, or did you get talked into it? Did you get ahead of yourself? Did uh, you just it was just unavoidable? How did that happen?
So it wasn't so much like think of it as like a small mistake that broke the model. And
Uh-huh.
you could call it like the big mistake was pushing so hard on growth and kind of running the fine line between reinvesting every dollar and maybe a little bit more back into the business was kind of the mistake that we made to like keep up
Uh-huh.
with and fuel growth. But our business model predominantly predicated off of this concept of we're gonna do analysis of your property, large properties like IKEA, AT&T, Kodak, Coca-Cola, etc. We'll do the full analysis for you free of charge. We'll even go so far, it will show you what it looks like, what your picture is going to look like. If you sign and say you want to go ahead with this plan of what your new lighting is going to look like and the savings and stuff, we'll make custom lights for you, and we'll use a bunch of the lights that are not custom that we make too. We'll install all of those, so make them, ship them over here, install them, and then you're just going to be paying us a percentage of the savings you get every month for the next 5 years. And so very cash flow burdensome business, but really great margins and sticky, kind of recurring revenue. And for a while, like we were trying to just juggle what was like a very financially complicated business model, but we pioneered this idea of like lighting as a service, and effectively like had some delays in shipments because of like a tsunami overseas. We had a product that we thought the molding could withstand multiple years, but we hit production too fast and like exhausted the lifetime of the mold before the production run was even completed. We had like a client like kind of be slow to making payment, an install job that went longer, was taking longer than expected. And you take all of those things that are happening in a high growth business. Like we went from a dorm room and zero revenue, 8.5 million. Like that is a very high growth, super stressful. And if we're pushing everything into it, you start to have like a few of these mistakes all come together at once, and it's like the perfect storm of an oh shit moment. We need to get the debt facilities needed and do what we need to do to make payroll. And that's the other thing too, is like, we prioritized our people over ourselves. So it was like, yeah, F it. I'll go in debt, but I'm not going to like make it, I'll do that for the sake of making sure my employees can, make rent and cover heating and, cover any utility bills that they have for their kids and families. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly not recklessness, but it's just the reality of.
Well, one could say is that's where you got your real education.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I got my street MBA, as I
I'm
like to
I'm
put it.
I'm most excited hearing about that part of your where you've been so far in terms of being excited, feeling confident about your future. The fact that you've been around the Horn of Africa, basically sailed in choppy waters and lived is it's a great testimony, equal to the growth of your business, and it's got to give you. Don't you have a confidence about yourself from having uh, uh, made it through that you would not have any other way?
Yeah. I think the nice thing is it gives me anecdotes that I can use when I'm telling my team like we'll make it, right? I don't think it's changed my perception. I think like I've always been one that you know, the worst thing you could ever do is tell me something's not possible, because I will prove you wrong. Like that's the mentality I think that I've always been at. So, the bigger the problem, the harder it is. Like I more I enjoy it. Maybe I'm sick in that way, but I enjoy struggle and challenge and overcoming it, because I just like, it like pushes you to like new extents. But I think the nice thing is, from having overcome these things, maybe there's a little bit of a level of confidence. Personally, I'd say like more than anything, it's just the ability to communicate to my team. Like if we're looking down the barrel of a gun, I can tell them like, look, I've overcome this. And it's not just me. It's like, look, I've worked with a team to overcome this obstacle and overcome this obstacle and overcome that obstacle. And some of those obstacles might make the one that we're looking at right now feel like not that big of a deal. And I think it just helps keep people level headed, and reminds them that the best thing we can do is not worry and fear, but just put our heads down. Like, what's the first thing we need to do next? And then it's like step after step, like knock over incremental steps towards the right direction. And all those steps add up. And eventually we're looking down the other side of the mountain.
Hey, listen, there's a lot of information online, but there aren't a lot of people who've actually done something. In my case, I've actually built a successful business that's accrued over $5 billion in assets under management and has done well even during trying times. Now, if you want to know exactly how I've done this, go to whitelmwinning.com/webinar now. I've compressed a decade of learning into 5 short weeks just for those of you who want to give yourself an incredible advantage and are tired of waiting and watching others move up. Well, so much of it is, I think some of them call it emotional intelligence, but the idea of thinking on your feet clearly when things get, you know, you're you're in an earthquake and the ground is shaking under your feet, but you still you kind of are able to compartmentalize that and not uh, panic and go run off. You're able to stay in there and say, okay, what can I do about this? And deliver for the people that are looking you uh, to be the leader or to be the captain. You know, that thing about a captain is a great thing, but the deal is when people work for you, they need you to be the leader, be the captain in the tough times, not the necessarily the easier growth times.
Totally.
And you've got to take if you're not willing to take and a part of that is having that attitude about uh, you know enjoying solving problems and not running from it. It's like, okay, all right, I got that. Now here's what can we do? First step. You always start with, okay, first step, and then you
Yeah.
start moving forward, and then the whole dynamic changes with one step forward, doesn't it?
Totally. I mean, the worst thing you can do as a leader is not make a decision. Like, no decision is the worst decision. So you have to act. And like, I look at it like, almost you can get to the same place almost any way you go. One might be easier, and the other one's kind of like might not be necessarily right. But then you're gonna have to iterate and like overcome that and re-navigate your way back. But any problem, you can, break it apart into a bunch of little mini problems, and mini problems seem easier to overcome, and, do those subsequently. And the next thing you know, you overcome the big one.
Well, this has been fun talking with you, Enrico. I appreciate your time and congratulations on your great start with Botkeeper. It
Thank you.
you've got the beginnings of a juggernaut. It sounds, and um
We're certainly having a lot of fun.
congratulations on the team you've assembled and the
Thank you.
track record you've got. I'm looking forward to checking in with you down the road and seeing all the new things that you've learned and uh, adventures you've had running your own business in a big way in a tough time for a lot of people in the economy, and you guys are
Sure.
thriving. So congratulations, man. That's it's quite a story.
Really appreciate it, Larry. Thanks so much for having me on.
Is there any last thing you'd like to give away to people that are wanna branch out or they're looking for an idea to grab on or a concept to break free. Any last word to add to what we've said so far?
No, I mean, I think it all just fundamentally is rooted in value creation. Solving a problem. Like, how do you like the ideas that I've had have stemmed from personal experience of like this was a headache at my last startup. Like our finance and accounting was a big headache. So what did I do? I took a step back, when I was no longer in it and operating, I stepped back, looked at it from, a third party perspective, identified, the ways that I would like it to go and how it could be better. And then you start kind of reverse engineering that to figure out how you deliver that betterness. And before you know it, you've got a business model or idea that solves a problem for some set of people. And then you got to go to market with it.
Well said. Thanks so much, Enrico. I wish you the best.
Appreciate it, Larry. You as well.
If you enjoyed what you've heard and are dead serious about finding out for yourself exactly how this works in the real world, I've taken the most valuable business lessons I've learned over 40 years and put them into something for you to watch. Go to whiteelementwinning.com/webinar now in order to move up as fast as possible. I'm Larry Weidel, and I run the $1 Million Mastermind. Go, go, go.